Yeah.
Oh, and we're Dane Young.
And we're Dane Young. Yeah.
We're not Dane Young. We're the folks from UGASports.com. My name is Ronnie DeBulsey. I'm joined by Jake Roos. And, of course, Hall of Famer Jim Donnan is with us. Dane Young is enjoying celebrating the birth of a child.
Shout out to Dane, though, because I did have to text him about 5 minutes ago and ask him for his Zoom login. So
put your baby down. We have a show to do.
You don't really stop being the producer. You just hit pause.
It's like, yes, would you like to hold your baby for the first time? Wait a second. I have a call to take. These idiots don't know how to run a Zoom meeting.
Yes.
It's 5 months into a pandemic. So shout out to Dane Young. Congratulations to him, Mabruk, to our friend Dane Young with the birth of another child. And big shout. Congratulations.
Nice looking little girl. I mean, that's two girls in the Young family now.
Everyone looks to be doing really well there.
Yeah. Coach, what you gonna give a shout out to Dane?
Yeah, I mean, he sent me a picture of the little girl here. Looks like a UGA cheerleader already. I mean, she's a cute little girl.
Yeah, we're happy for Dane. Congratulations, Dane. We miss you, and we'll see you back here next week. Everything runs a lot smoother when Dane's around.
Eternity leave.
Yeah.
There's no such thing. We do have a lot of football to talk about. We have some quarterbacks to talk about. We have some recruiting to talk about. A couple guys making an announcement soon that we need to talk about. Guys who've moved up their announcement by months. I mean, yesterday we had stories on Amarius Mims moving up his announcement 2 months. The last guy who moved his, like Tony Grimes, when he moved his up, that didn't work out so well for Georgia. Georgia's hoping for better results with Amarius Mims moving up his announcement a few months. So we had
Smell Munden.
I never know how to say it. Smell Munden. Did he move his up too? Did he not?
Well, no. Actually,
he moved his back.
He kind of delayed his.
That's
yeah,
right.
He was down to a top 3, then goes to a top 5, and now it's kind of all over the place. Yeah. He says he's a guy I think going to wait on some visits. We'll talk about him for sure today.
We also want to talk about some quarterback stuff. And, of course, we are live at Academia Brewing Company. We are drinking beer, having food. Food's coming. We kind of felt bad about eating all the great food last week and not giving Coach Donnan any. So, speaking to Matt Casey here, Matt's like, well, we have DoorDash. And I'm like, oh, yeah. So the DoorDash folks and any of the delivery companies are work out of Academia, of course. But, Coach, we got some that triplata Cerebus sandwich coming to you. We also have some shrimp and grits coming your way. But you don't get it till after the show because we know how we can't – between you and Jake, I can't get through an hour show without you guys wolfing down some food. So right as the show ends, there'll be a knock at the door.
I have great affinity for Academia. You know, I told you before they were even a sponsor. I went out there with my whole family, grandkids, everybody. It's about 15 people, and everybody that you just can't please everybody in that group. And we ended up. Everybody got what they wanted, and I knew from that point on he was going to be a success. I'd met him through Oconee High School, and just a great guy. And it's a tremendous example of a guy having a dream and making it work. And he's certainly taken care of a lot of people too, from a humanitarian standpoint too. I was glad you were able to cover that last weekend.
You saw that they did 300 sandwiches for the ESP group.
Yeah.
You know, that's constantly doing charity work. You know, so it's not most people during. I'll say most people. A lot of people during the pandemic are just trying to make ends meet. Matt Casey and the folks here are doing that, plus taking care of the community.
Yeah. People, normally I think people are into this like bunker mentality of like, hey, we got to protect ours. We got to, you selfish bastard. I think that Matt's doing tremendous work. Like I said, like Coach said, was really glad to get him on here last week. If you haven't had a chance to watch Matt last week talk with us, go back and review that podcast too, because he did a great job and kind of broke down all the things that make Academia great. And there are plenty of them for sure.
Yeah. Speaking of, we got some food coming. What you drinking beer already?
Yes. Yes,
okay.
I am. This is Choose Your Sword.
3 different fruits in that, including a Japanese fruit.
Oh, that's so tasty.
Shut up, you. I had the Galaxias Porter.
Roddy on his
favorite.
second for the day.
Oh, yeah. You sipped that. Yeah. God, that's so good. I'm starving.
All right.
Coach, I want to go straight to you because the story of last week, and we mentioned this a good bit last week. We talked about the quarterback situation because the only actual real event that happened team-wise was the Elite 11. So I say team-wise, and that Jamie Newman, Georgia's quarterback, was out there serving as a counselor, and then Brock Vandagriff, Georgia's 5-star recruit, number 4 in the nation.
Brock? Yes, I believe that's correct.
Yeah. So one of the top players in the nation was actually out there at the Elite 11 competition, throwing the ball around. Did well. We had a story Monday recently, maybe it was Monday or Sunday, whatever it was, about the fact that the judging in that thing was a little weird. You know, they apparently a lot of the participants didn't realize until they showed up that a lot of the judging was going to be based on last year's film. And I get it because they're not throwing to the same receivers they normally would be.
Yeah,
that's a big difference. But still, Brock Vandagriff, the Georgia commit, did very well. You know, finished, I think, in the top 5. You know, in the according to most of the pundits that were out there. Coach, you've been able to get more and more information from your sources about how that went down, and I wanted to kind of turn it over to you to kind of give us more of your thoughts about how Jamie Newman and Brock Vandagriff and all the guys that were at the Elite 11 did.
Yeah, I think certainly they've never changed the format on that as far as the 50% on the film, so maybe the people didn't realize that, but it wasn't like it's a new thing for them. They've always – you've got to have something to base it on when a guy's got football pads on because that's what you play with. So I think
right. We'll get to Coach. There you go.
I think it's always been. Have you lost me there?
There you go. Yeah, you cut out on us there for a second. Go ahead. Go try again.
You mean to start over?
Yes.
Okay.
Actually, it's probably not you. It's probably not.
You want me to talk? Can you hear me?
Hey, Coach, yeah, we can hear you. Just give us 1 second. It's making an
Miss Dave.
Hello.
There you go. How about now?
All right. I don't want to waste my. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes, sir.
All right. I don't want to waste all my stuff here. Now I've been working hard on this, but seriously, the whole deal with the Elite 11, it's just a unique deal. And they've always tried to be as thorough as they can. So you got to look at a kid with his uniform on and watch the tape. So they got to have something to start with, and that's what they do with the 50%. And then they base it a lot on the 3-day evaluation. But the difference this time is they didn't have the receivers from all over the country, all the top 5-star guys to throw to, all the running backs. They didn't play 7-on-7, which they normally would do, and have teams that they assign them to. And it's just a unique pandemic type situation where a little bit of something's better than nothing at all. So the eval process probably wasn't as good as it needed to be. But I know this, we've got 2 outstanding guys. I had a chance to talk to Trent Dilfer prior to that, which we talked with our people last week about, and then I've talked to him since then. And I'm just going to share with you some of the thoughts that he had, because Trent is the number 1 quarterback guy in the country for high school athletes. I mean, there's no question about it. He's been that way, and he cares about these kids, and he watches them develop, and they talk to them throughout their careers, and he's kind of a mentor to them. So basically I have some notes here, so I don't want to miss out on it, because I know all the dog fans want to get stuff. So you're going to see the old coach with his peepers on here. But this is something you don't get from any ordinary source here. So this is about the only thing that I do to help your site, but I'm going to help you. I'm going to give you, as somebody that was smoking some weed, this is some good stuff right here. All right. Jamie, physically very gifted and fully engaged in learning more every day. Understands what he did at Wake was unique, but wants to grow as a player, both pre-snap and post-snap. As every throw in the catalog, just wasn't able to use them all in Wake's offense. Excuse me. His stature will allow him to run the rock in the SEC without getting too banged up. Very humble and poised kid. I think that's a pretty good analysis of Jamie. Wow. Everything that I've seen about him and saw what he was able to do when he was here earlier. Brock, sky's the limit here. I mean, when this guy says the sky's the limit, That's pretty good. Insanely competitive and tough-minded. He's the kid that wants you to toss the balls out, and then he will grab one and want to kick your ass with it. Very good athlete, Baker Mayfield type athlete. Short area quickness, great balance. Doesn't need it right to be productive. By that, he means it doesn't have to be just everything perfect. Has a smooth way about him that makes others gravitate to him. He's comfortable in his own skin and genuine. Coach's kid, so he's been around a lot of ball. Will go into college knowing more than any ball than any quarterback in the room. My guess is he is a 3-year starter in college. I mean, that's pretty strong.
Yeah, no doubt.
Now, a lot of people are going to say, Coach, Trent's your friend. You've known him for a long time. He's just telling you what you want to hear.
Bullshit. I mean, if he's told me some things about kids before that we got that I didn't want to hear, and he was right about it. And
I'm just trying to get his credentials.
This has been for 10 years, so he's not. One thing you always remember, Attila the Hun always said this back in the old days. You don't give false praise. That's the worst thing you can ever do. I mean, you lose credibility when you give false praise, and he's not one to do that. And he's very candid in his assessments. And I think one thing that will make it very clear to you is the guy sitting on your left, my right, was out there last year during the whole Elite 11. And throughout the whole time, we texted back and forth about what he was seeing and what I was hearing from Trent. And it was pretty much 100%, wasn't it, Jake?
Yeah, we were pretty spot on last year. We were pretty tight in our evals last year. I felt good about them.
Well, you're good at it, but I mean, you can definitely say. But you can say that Dilfer didn't sugarcoat anything to me,
yeah,
right?
No question.
Yeah, and again, I'm not questioning Trent Dilfer. I've met him before. I mean, we're not close, but I'm just saying that when you're hearing stuff like that,
sure,
Georgia fans will be like, well, of course, that he's just saying he's being polite because,
Now, I'll tell you this, and shout out to our subscribers at UGAsports.com because they're some of the smartest and most well-informed people on the internet always. But I do want to say that one guy pointed out, and I forget the name, so I'm sorry. I should give credit where it's due. But one of our posters said, and I totally agree with this, that this cycle, this 2021 cycle, compared to some of the prior ones that we've had, not a lot of elite quarterback play out there. I think that the gap is wide between the very top tier guys, the top tier guys and the bottom tier guys, and they're the next tier, I should say. I think that that's the case this year. Georgia, you're talking about, and really I think it comes down to Caleb Williams, Brock Vandagriff, and it looks like Ty Thompson, the Oregon commit, made a big jump at the Elite 11. But you've got one of the three elite prospects at that position this year. Carlos Del Rio, a guy who I think gained some steam as well. But wire to wire, it's Caleb Williams and Brock Vandagriff. Georgia's in not the strongest field of quarterbacks. They've got one of the elite guys. That's huge news for them going forward this year.
I think you're right. And you look at the fact that when there was an overload of quarterbacks, when you had 3 in the top 4 players in the nation, Georgia landed one. He transferred, and they landed another. Yeah. So you had Justin Fields, he goes to Ohio State. Then you pick up JT Daniels. So for a defensive-minded coach and Kirby Smart, he seems to be able to hit on quarterbacks pretty well. So
yeah, no question. Now, of course, the next step comes in taking one of those guys, developing him, taking him to the next level, and getting him to push you to that next level. Like Jake Fromm almost got you.
Yeah.
But I do think that, that's what everybody's waiting on, and I get that. But, Brock, like you said, Coach, you made that Baker Mayfield comparison. Not bad to be compared to a former Heisman winner, a guy who led his team to some immense success. So,
well, the thing you got with Brock that you see here on social media is his involvement in helping us recruit. He wants to get a good supporting cast with him, and that's what you're always looking for. You got the Pied Piper effect, and this is a very unique recruiting situation that hopefully we'll never have again, where kids aren't visiting, where coaches aren't out talking to them and all that. But you got an elite player like him that's already in the fold that's trying to say, look, it was good enough for me. I need you to come help me win. And that's what he's doing. he's doing. Also, Daniels, the defensive back, doing a lot of that too. And I think it was great that we got off such a good start in the state early on before all this broke. People are saying, hey, what about our ranking and all that? But you start adding some of the guys we're getting ready to add, it'll make a lot of difference. But the one thing that I would say about Brock that's going to be really good is the fact that hopefully we'll be able to play, and if not, whenever we do. But he'll be here, for spring. But he's also can come over here when things open up and visit and watch our kids practice and learn the system. And he's very smart and he's very competitive. And being a coach's son is going to be a tremendous advantage for him.
Yeah, no question about it. And I think that, Coach, you mentioned that ability for him to get over here and get on campus and be close. No knock on Carson Beck, great player, but he was in Jacksonville. It's a little tougher to get up the road 6 hours than it is to drive 10 minutes over from Oconee County. I've got to think that with Brock Bowers headed into town this weekend, I wonder if Brock Vandagriff will be playing a little host for him. I got a good feeling he will.
Think we need to check out the UGA Athletica fields, the intramural fields.
Yeah, there you go.
Maybe swing by Prince Avenue. Keep an eye out.
Yeah, just stretching the old arm out a little bit. Yeah.
Do want to give a
good point. Good point.
A big shout out to Jamie Newman. What Coach said about him is very impressive. I know the Georgia fans are dying, and I've been asked once, been asked 1,000 times, do you think football is going to be played this fall? I am an optimistic person. I think we're going to see case numbers go down. I think the UGA just came out, the university system just came out and said, look, everyone has to wear masks. And I think, look, if you're wearing masks, open everything up. If they're effective, then you should be able to open things up. It seems like a good compromise. If you're going to force everyone to wear a mask, then nothing should be closed. Open up the stadium at any sort of capacity, let the players play. UGA just put out a note saying that they're able to do testing on campus now. So I think that the things that need to happen, despite the spikes we've seen, this is going to be manageable and they will be able to play football. That said, the main reason I want to see this is because I want to see what Jamie Newman can do, the way Trent Dilfer is describing him. And again, one of the things, being a pessimist sometimes that I am when it comes to Georgia football, worried about a running quarterback, worried about a guy getting banged up, knowing that, recently Georgia was very thin at QB.
Sure.
So a lot of that, those fake QB runs, that's just not going to happen. You're not going to run your war horse. Yeah, it's your horse. So, some of the times those fakes, no one bid on them because no one expected, Jake Fromm to keep it. Now you have a situation where you have a running dual threat quarterback. You remember when we first started doing the show, one of the first times we had Coach Donnan on, we asked him, what are the top 3 gets in this class? Or top 3 guys that you want to see recruited in this class? And he said, Justin Fields, Justin Fields, Justin Fields.
Yeah.
Coach is a big supporter of a dual threat quarterback. You got a great defense, great running back, strong offensive line, and now you could have that dual threat quarterback. I want to see, was that the missing option, the missing ingredient in a championship formula?
The missing option. I see what you did there.
Yeah. Not on purpose, but I wish I had. But the idea that, I really want to see that, and people get asked about it all the time. I think the anticipation for the season is not just COVID related and we've been cooped up. It's just a lot of people who thought that Georgia was missing that one thing may have been addressed in Jamie Newman. Now, it might not work out.
Listen, I've talked to a lot of people about this, and I think that it's just an exciting time for Georgia football going into the season because you've got some of those unknown variables, but hey, you believe in what you got in Newman, even though you're not quite sure how this all transitions over. You're replacing a tremendous running back, but you've got 2 guys who you've just been waiting to put the load on.
Yeah.
You've got 3 5-stars. Actually.
I'm sorry, my apologies.
You got George Pickens, who's looking like Georgia's best receiver in a decade, at least. And then you've got a defense that's returning almost all the parts. Almost all the parts.
Trayvon Walker.
To what was the number 1 defense in the nation last year?
Tyson Campbell.
So, I get the anticipation around the season being coming from that regard because I think that people want to see, you're going into it this year. I think not knowing as much as you normally know about this Georgia team. You know, it's been Jake Fromm, and then before that it was Nick Chubb, Sonny Michel. You know, you had these constants. This year, there's a lot of question marks on the offense. You got a new offensive coordinator as well. How does that kind of play itself out? I'm not saying that it makes a huge difference at all.
3 new linemen,
but I think there's some intrigue out there that you don't know, that you haven't had in a couple of years around it.
And I go back to Coach's point, was saying, you know, with what Trent Dilfer's saying about Jamie Newman, that just whets your appetite. You're like, oh, let's see what that could be. Speaking of,
well, the other thing that we were able to talk about a couple weeks ago was JT Daniels, who was out there too. You know, and when they actually had the full Elite 11, and he was one of the guys that Dilfer's really high on as far as his ball placement and things like that. The thing that's really important for all of us to remember, hey, we were 11-2 last year. We had one really bad game offensively where the other team didn't get a red zone, get the ball in the red zone once, and still ended up beating us in overtime. And then we lost to the national champion. You know, so we got some tall orders to fill to meet that standard, because every team that we play in the East this year, with the exception of Missouri, maybe, and Vanderbilt, I think it's going to be at least as good as they were last year and maybe better. So we got to do that, and then we got to play Auburn and Alabama. So, you know, even if we're as better than we were last year, it's going to be hard to beat that record. I hope we can. If we go 11-1, we'll be in that championship game at SEC. That'd be great. So, but I think the offensive line, again, is something we got to mold, and hopefully that'll happen. But the one point about Jamie I would mention is watching Coach Monken's teams at Southern Miss with Nick Mullins, who we saw play some pro ball for the 49ers there when Jimmy G went down. He likes a quarterback that's mobile enough to move around in the pocket, but he doesn't have a lot of predetermined quarterback runs. And I think that's what we'll have with Jamie, the obvious runs he'll take and the scrambles he'll make good yardage on, but he's going to be a passer first type quarterback.
Yeah, I don't expect to see Kirby and all of a sudden go, hey, let's go wing T or something like that. But I do see a situation where there were times last year you're like, Fromm, tuck it, run it.
It could have helped. Sure.
And again, I don't know that was it. The margin for error that Georgia had last year was, or the number of plays that really needed that much improvement was minimal. You had the best defense. You had a productive offense. It wasn't scoring as much as you want. Part of that was when you had the game in hand. Kirby likes to take the foot off the gas a little bit. You know?
Well, and you mentioned too, I mean, you were worried about the depth. It wasn't like Jake could just pull it down and put that head down and charge forward.
So you see that, but that's what I'm thinking. It's not a overall change of philosophy. It's just that you're obviously splitting hairs as to what you need to get. I mean, 11-2, that's pretty good. Okay, you needed 1 or 2 plays to beat in South Carolina in a nasty game, and then you kind of got your doors blown off against LSU. Well, what do you need to not have another South Carolina game? Sure. Maybe that's 1 or 2 plays where the quarterback keeps it. Maybe it's 1 or 2 plays where it's not a true freshman on defense. You know, it's a guy who's, you saw the difference Aziz Ujulari made. You know, going from redshirting to his first season. Yeah. What is he like in a second full year of playing? What's Trayvon Walker like in a full year? What's Nolan Smith like in a full year? You know, what's Richard LeCount like in a money year? You know, so to your point, it's razor thin margins that you have to work in. Can't make a mistake, and sometimes you just need 1 extra play. Do you have that now? That's why I'm anticipating. My ultimate downer fear: Georgia wins the national championship this year without anybody in the stands to see it. People that have been season ticket holders for 50 years.
That would be classic.
That would be the most Georgia thing.
It would be a very Georgia thing.
Yeah, they won the title.
But
no
I'll
one
tell
got
you
to
what,
see it.
there'd be plenty of people watching on TV.
They will take it.
Oh, they'd take it all day.
Hey, they'll watch along with Coach Donnan and myself and Dane or
I'm sure I'll be there working, but that's okay.
Actually, we'll put you behind the couches where you can flip camera things.
I'm going to be sitting back there drinking Natty Light seltzer. Or maybe in academia, actually.
Do want to give a shout out to our friends. We're on the west side of town right now, so if you're wondering where Academia Brewing Company is, it's if you remember where the mall is. We're like 1 street down from the mall. behind, what is that, racetrack?
The racetrack, yes.
Behind the racetrack gas station. We're maybe half a mile from Athens Ford. So if you're on the west side of town, you want to get a great lunch, come by here. You want to get a great deal on a vehicle, swing by our friends at Athens Ford. I just spoke to them not too long ago. They have fantastic finance deals for July coming. I don't have the details in front of me yet because they were 4th of July weekend. They're slow putting them up. But check with our friends at Athens Ford. They do fantastic service. So if you're like, hey, I don't need a new vehicle. I'm financially a little insecure right now with all the stuff that's going on. Hey, make sure that your vehicle is running so that when you are actually out and about, you don't have any vehicle issues. So take it to our friends at Athens Ford. I guarantee you will be very happy with the service. Fantastic service bay. Free drinks. Great high-speed Wi-Fi. We've used the public Wi-Fi there. We didn't have to go in and say, hey, give us the Wi-Fi for your in-house thing. We're like, guest Wi-Fi. And this show ran beautifully with all the bandwidth we needed.
Yeah.
Couldn't tell a difference. So immaculate, clean, it's clean anyway. Now that with all the COVID stuff going around, that place is immaculate. So check out with our friends at Athens Ford. If you need a pre-owned vehicle, you can get one up to 80,000 miles with a lifetime powertrain warranty. And of course, all of their new vehicles come with a lifetime powertrain warranty. You won't get that anywhere else. Our friends at Athens Ford. What are you eating?
So we got the Kobe beef hot dog here. But what really caught me off guard, I was like, what's going on with these sauces here that came with it? That's a little honey mustard right there. Delicious.
Oh, my God.
But this is beer cheese. And that caught me off guard. That is ridiculous.
Oh, my God.
So definitely get out here to Academia.
Beer cheese. Damn.
And
Coach, you're going to love this, but remember, you don't get yours till after the show. Our friends at DoorDash are going to be delivering you the shrimp and grits and that Cerebus Triple sandwich, the 3-meat sandwich. So I guarantee if you call Coach about 3:30, he'll be in a food coma.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be good.
I got to share that, though. I'm not going to eat all that. My wife's going to eat the
No, there's no way you could.
But that's nice of them to send it. And, we just got the right places sponsoring us between Classic City East and Your Pie. I mean, I used that Your Pie app last night. It was awesome.
Wait, what?
There you go.
You use the app?
I mean, I'm learning how to do some stuff under Jake. I mean,
we have been having some like Genius Bar sessions,
nice.
like the Apple folks have. So we worked last night on it.
let me tell you something. When I told Drew French, I sent him a text. I mean, after I got there, they were waiting on me. I just called the number. I went right into the area, and they brought it out to me. And you get the selection just like what you want. Everything on your pizza the way you want it, and it's just a way to go, man.
I like it because you pick up the pizza you want, what sauce, what cheese, and then you just push the buttons for the top, and you don't have to even talk to anybody. And then you go pick it up like 5 minutes later. It's fabulous. So I won't get into a 90-second commercial on Your Pie. I'll just say this. If you want to order from Your Pie, use the app because you will get free pizzas.
There you go.
And it's easier than actually standing there talking to somebody.
Yeah. Oh,
honestly,
sure.
God, I hate to say it, but it's, you're like, I want this, and this, and then that. Special instructions done. So check out the Your Pie app.
All right, let's talk some recruiting.
Yeah, you talk while I eat.
Some big news out there in the world of recruiting. So want to touch on that. Amarius Mims comes out over the weekend, bumps his commitment date up to August 15th. Not a huge surprise. I think that he wanted to kind of go ahead and get things out of the way before the season got started.
But he won't be taking any visits.
He will not be taking any visits, which makes you think,
before his announcement.
Yes, before the announcement, which makes you think that obviously those who have hosted him several times would probably be in good position. He said he's narrowed the list down a little bit. He was at 10. I think he's shooting for around 6 or 8 or something now.
We had an update yesterday.
We'll go over here and read that with Chad Simmons. He had a great update with him. I'll tell you this, too. I put out some notes yesterday, and the quote that he gave me I thought was just wonderful about Matt Luke. He said, I said, what's the relationship that you've been developing with Georgia over the course of this? Obviously, they're tight. He's been to Georgia plenty of times. He knows the coaching staff well. What's the relationship been like since the shutdown? He says, I've really been getting to know Coach Luke. And what I've learned about him is, he's a great guy, a great coach, players coach. he also had a player like me once. And that guy's now the highest paid offensive tackle in the league. So, and that was what he said. I mean, we were texting and he said, which is that's a pretty good endorsement. Laramie Tunsil is who he's speaking of, who Georgia fans, I'm sure, very familiar with there. But, very complimentary of Matt Luke. Obviously, his record precedes him and what he's been able to do on the offensive line. I've felt good about Georgia in this one for some time. I think that, does it make the most sense? Probably not, given how many guys they have on campus. But I think from a comfort factor, from the hometown factor, staying close by, he's close with the staff. Yeah. It just is all kind of working together.
He has spoken about being an in-state guy.
Yeah.
A lot of guys give that lip service.
Yep.
Like, oh, it's the in-state team. He's actually talked about how that would benefit him after play.
Yes.
So somebody got in his ear early on and said, look, if you are one of the top players in the state and you stay at the in-state school. Now, this works against Georgia when you're trying to pull a Mason Smith out of Louisiana.
Right.
Or you're trying to pull a top flight player out of Alabama or a top player out of the state of Florida. But when you have a loaded D1 state like like Georgia, the University of Georgia, it helps to say, look, when you are done and you're ready to open a business or something, if you're back in your home state, the capital will be there for loans to launch your business. You'll have made a lot of money. You can do it.
Talk about the ultimate icebreaker at a job interview.
Yeah, I played for Georgia. I was starting left tackle for 3 years. Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah. We need your signature. So the point being, he's mentioned that before. I like Georgia's chances there. Again, I leave all the predictions and stuff up to you guys. I don't weigh in on that. But I think the signs point well for Georgia in the fact that he's not going to see some of these other schools before he makes a decision. Man, I like it. Coach, you've made your career out of knowing who was a good football player and who wasn't. Give us your thoughts on Amarius Mims.
One thing about the guy is just the film shows you what he can do. He's a man among boys there. He got great feet like a dancing bear. He's powerful. Got a good personality, like you said, Jake. I met him last summer up here. I didn't get to talk to him long, but he's just a very good example of when you got a great player in the state. And I think he's ranked number 2 in the country overall. Is that what he is? You got to feel like that, it's a big deal to get him. We've been after him for a long time, and I feel very good about it. But it's just a different situation now with all, as we've talked about, with all the different things going on. But we got to feel like the amount of time that he's been here, the number of games that he's been here, the number of practices he's watched, the number of times he's come up here in the summer to camp. I mean, we just got a heck of a advantage there that somebody's going to have to really make a big comeback point. But we'll have to see. But certainly it looks good to me.
Yeah, I think that to Georgia, one of the things that probably really benefited them over the course of this is there was really not a lot of layoff between Sam Pittman's move and then getting Matt Luke in the door. And as soon as Matt Luke got on the ground, it was, hey, you need to get to Cochran, all right, we with a quickness. I think obviously they prioritized that as you would. It makes total sense. And I think that Matt Luke has done a great job connecting with him. The Georgia staff overall is someone he's very familiar with, but Matt Luke working on a little bit of an abridged time schedule, in the time that he's gotten to know him. I think it's been huge. And Coach, you mentioned him just being a tremendous athlete, a guy with such great feet. I think people forget it was not long ago that this kid transitioned over from playing tight end. He was a freshman playing tight end. I mean, from a physical perspective, they don't build him much better than this. He's in that Isaiah Wilson territory in that regard. I mean, 6'7.5", 300 pounds, really not a lot of bad weight he's carrying around. I mean, just overall a great specimen. And like I said, I think Georgia is standing very well.
I mean, he looks like Roderick Jones. He looks like a taller Andrew Thomas. You know, I mean, it just right off the bat, you're like, this kid can do it. So I guess you won't be changing your crystal ball or your future cast or your fuzzy 8-ball.
I don't expect to. No, it would take a lot, I think, for me to shake it up. But speaking of upcoming commitments and kind of making some predictions on them, Georgia looking to be in the mix pretty heavily for one tomorrow, and that's Jamon Dumas-Johnson. 3-star linebacker
I read like one story about this guy.
Yes, 3-star linebacker out of St. Francis, which is one of the premier programs up there in Baltimore. He's from the Maryland area. A kid who 6'2", 225, 6'3"-ish. Probably looking at maybe an outside linebacker, possibility of moving inside, a guy who can kind of play both spots. I will say the swell. I think Mikkel is a little bit more well suited for the inside than this guy is. This guy's a little thicker. He looks like a hand in the ground type player to me, but he's got the agility and the ability to play standing up. Some building confidence around this. We even as recently as a week and a half ago, I was speaking to our guys up there, our guys who are connected in that area. They were saying, look, this is going Maryland. This is a Maryland thing. Maryland, if you haven't been following Maryland, by the way, you should, because they've made some great strides in recruiting under Mike Loxley. Going to be a real force, I think, here in the upcoming years. But it seemed like it was all Maryland. And now, over the course of the weekend, it looks like things have blown back Georgia's way. Would be a really nice way for them to kind of get the momentum back on their side. It's been a little bit quiet around things. Tony Grimes, obviously, that was a blow. Small Munden, you mentioned, we thought it would already be done.
We kind of expected something.
Yeah,
we thought James Williams was going to.
James Williams
have made a decision.
Well. Yeah, so I think that Georgia could use the boost in that regard. It's not going to hurt that Brock Vandagriff's coming, Brock Bowers is coming to town this week. You got to feel good about that. But Jamon Dumas-Johnson, definitely one to watch. Wednesday, 2 p.m. Sounds like when it's going down. I'm leaning Georgia
Where's
today.
That future cast?
I'm leaning Georgia today.
Where's that fuzzy 8-ball?
We'll put it in tonight. We'll put it in tonight. I got to double check. You know me. I'm a triple and cross checker guy.
You need to go check some bird entrails is what you're going to do. Look for an omen or something like that. I know you.
But the one thing that's important here, too, is Coach Lanning's building a base up there. He was able to get Sherman out of there last year. He also went into Philadelphia and got Judy. Obviously, Georgia's recruiting him. It's not just the position coach or the coordinator, but I think Dan has a lot of credibility up there with the way that our defense played last year, and these kids are seeing the amount of guys that we're playing on defense too, and they, got a chance to play on a winning team as compared to Maryland. Sure, Maryland's selling we're going to be good and all that, but we lost Carter, and sometimes you lose an in-state kid that you think you're going to get, but you got an out-of-state kid that can maybe come in and play outside, like you mentioned, Jake. So I just think it's just kind of give and take, at this point. You got to fill your squad based on who you're going to be losing and what you got coming back and all that. But, I've looked a little tape on this guy. I mean, he makes plays, and he's very aggressive.
Yeah, that's a great team he plays for too. One of the premier programs up in that area of the country. I will say too, Coach, you mentioned and you touched on it. I think one of the most appealing things that Georgia's got going for them in terms of recruiting right now is how many guys they're playing on defense. The way they're rotating guys in. Kids are seeing an opportunity. Yes, this is a returning number one defense, but look, the way they platoon guys in, I'm going to get a chance to get some snaps and make my impact.
I was told, I don't say mid-season, but I was told at some point last year, when the season's over, look at the Georgia secondary. It's going to fill up the transfer portal. A lot of kids who don't think they're getting enough playing time. Same with some of these guys who were recruited over. Let's be fair, there were some linebackers who were really good at the time.
And that happens every year.
And better guys came in.
Yep.
It's a problem Ohio State has, problem Alabama has. When you get number one class, the guys who may be juniors or seniors have been surpassed.
Sure.
Georgia held on to most of these guys mainly because a lot of them said, look, I'm still getting to play. It's not like I'm just sitting on the bench the whole time. I may not play 50 snaps a game, but I'm in for 20.
Right.
I'm in for 15. And to me, it also says something that they see that it's fair. It's not like I know coaches see this all the time where a guy, he believes the coach is playing politics and the kid's like, they won't play me because I'm this or I'm that. When it comes to my mentality, I'm not, I don't kiss the coach's ass. I don't do it exactly the way coach does, but I do it my way and it's successful. I make plays, or I might not do it in practice, but when the game comes on, I make the plays. I'm not showing them in practice, but they know I can do it, and they just don't like me. So you have a kid with a bad attitude sometimes, and sometimes he's right. Sometimes coaches do play politics, but this is a situation where the kid's like, the guy that's out there in my spot right now beat me in practice, and he's making plays on the team. We have the number one defense. So,
fair and square, man.
Yeah. So yeah. I don't see a lot of sour grapes there, and consequently, we did not see the transfer portal fill up.
No, not
and you're able to go get other kids. So I think that
there's a couple things here too to point out there, Roddy, on what you just made, which is a good point. First of all, the number of packages we're playing now. We saw that transform from the first year Kirby was here to the second year when we had the big year and got to the national championship game. Instead of playing, pretty much the same guys and learning the defense, the second year it really promoted itself and got a lot better where we could play some more nickel and more pressure packages. Then 18, we saw some more of that. He got even more under Mel Tucker. Now under Lanning and Kirby and all the other coaches, we're seeing to play some of these teams that you got to play instead of just nickel defense, you got dime defense, but you also have built-in pass rush people with that where you'll substitute 7 or 8 guys and they play like Trayvon Walker came in there on third down or the linebackers would switch around a little bit and you get some pressure in there from those guys. So that helps you. And the other thing is the number one thing that I think that increases a kid's chances here is the emphasis on special teams. I'm sure it's the same in a lot of good programs, but here, if you make a special team, it's not because you're the only guy. It's because you've earned that right because it's competitive out there when they're trying to be the guy that's covering a punt or blocking an extra point or whatever it might be. So if you win that job to do that, then he's got enough confidence by that. I mean, Kirby, to put you in the game to do that, then he'll do that a little bit more to put you in on a defensive snap, being a nickel back or being a dime back or rushing a passer because you've proven it when the band's playing. So the evolution of the 4 years, we've seen the talent levels inherently go up, but we've also seen the fact that just because you're here doesn't mean that you can play or can't play. You're going to earn that right. But if you get a scholarship to Georgia, you're going to have a chance to play and play early because you're an elite player. And that's what we got now. We got a lot of elite guys playing on both sides of the ball. Offensively, we got pretty much the same situation we had going from 217 to 218 on defense. We got to replace some guys that got to step up, but we got some good guys stepping in there.
I want to get to this question from a dog in PTC. He says, I got a question for tomorrow's show. Seeing that multiple offensive linemen have been asked to lose weight, how much weight has Trey Hill lost? I know he was over 325 pounds last year, and I hate to say, we're not sure.
Yeah.
And that's, I appreciate the question, PTC, but we haven't been able to see a lot of these guys. The UGA came out with a updated roster recently. Noticed, speaking of, Kendall Milton was on the roster, and that Chris Milton, his dad's all proud. He's like, this makes it real to see his son and the media guy, the online media guy. And the freshmen don't have numbers yet, but he said that Kendall Milton will be wearing 22. I know Coach Donnan had a good number 22 back in the day. So we've if you need that 22 jersey, now it's time to go get it. But the heights and weights on there, we can compare with the way they listed Trey Hill. Let's just say I don't trust any of them yet. Let's wait till they actually have to show up for mandatory practices here in a week or so, and then we'll have our friends see if we can find an answer for you there.
I think that's probably something that gets out there and then people start talking about it. It's a good question. I don't know that we're going to tell these guys to downsize that much, although the style under Luke might be a little bit more pulling with the lineman and maybe not as much every down zone block where you got to beat the guy every down, where now you got some down block and more movement. But in Trey's case, as a center, you don't really pull that much. Sometimes people pull the center if they've got an overshift in front or something. But, he's got such power and such quickness that I don't know that he needs to lose much weight, maybe some body fat, but based on his thighs. But unbelievable thighs, best thighs I've ever seen as far as anybody. I've said that. I will say this, I make a lot of bad predictions, but the first spring that he was out here, I told you that he was one of the top 10 players on the team. And that I was right about it too, because he ended up playing a lot as a freshman and actually came in when we really needed him in some big games. But I think maybe the guy, I can't give you his moniker, whatever the guy's name was, but that asked the question. But I would say that overall maybe try to trim these guys down a little bit more for quickness, but we're not going to lose the bulk that we've developed. I guarantee you we're still going to be a huge line.
Now, another question here I want to move into. Be interested to hear both of you guys on this one. Dogs on Top 777 over on UGAsports.com. He says, who do you see making the biggest leap this year on defense? Nolan Smith, Tyreek Stevenson, or Lewis Senior? That's a good group to be. That's a tough group to be able to pick from.
No, I'm not going first.
I think it's.
I'll go first.
Okay, go for it,
Jake. The only thing I would say, he picked out 3 unique players, 3 starter type guys that all have were among the best players in the country at their position, and they're all going to have a chance to really show their stuff. We got a chance to see Stevenson play a lot more last year than maybe I thought it may be the first year of the corners we had, but I can see him making a big input in our secondary, whether it's a starter or is playing the dime guy. Nolan Smith is just a generational type player, intelligent, competitive. I think he's going to do a good job, but we need Seam to do the job more than anybody because of who he's replacing. Replacing Jake back there, he's going to have to. J.R. Reed, he's not going to replace J.R.'s dad. He's going to replace J.R. But he's going to have to come in there and, be very significant because the rest of those guys in the secondary have all played a lot. And he showed what he can do in the bowl game. I mean, he's a fierce tackler. He's a competitive guy. I would say as far as making the biggest jump, he'll have to make the biggest jump because the other 2 guys have got significant people playing around them and maybe won't play nearly as much. The 2 safety positions, we don't sub much at all on. So I would say Seam.
I would go with Seam also, primarily because I just think he's popped every time he's been on the field. I think that you expand the role, you just get more of that. So I think that he's due for a big uptick this year.
I think we'll see him more. People will be able to identify him. You don't see what's going on in the trenches sometimes, but I think Noah Smith is the guy simply because he is so physically imposing after having a year to kind of test the water, so to speak. You look at his bowl game is pretty good too. So I definitely see that guy as being the guy. I will say this about Nolan and Stevenson. Got first-round draft choice all around them. I mean, they got that kind of potential. Both those guys could be, if they continue to develop, they got the skill set, the competitiveness to both be high draft choices. Coach was talking about Trey Hill's thighs. Did you see these thighs? Did you see these thighs?
I did.
Oh, my goodness. Big shout-out again to our friends here at Academia Brewing Company. What's that over there?
Huh? Oh, these are the fried Brussels sprouts. Take them, flash fry them up, put them in a little bit of ranch dressing.
These are Trey Hill thighs, by the way. You can go some places and you get wings, and they're these tiny little like parakeet wings. I don't think they come from chicken. I think they come from a quail or swab or something. I'm scared to think of the size of these chickens. Those things are the size of ostriches. So Big shout out to our friends at Academia Brewing Company. Also want to say thank you to our friends at Aaron Overhead Doors, AARON, Aaron Overhead Doors, taking great care of us, sponsoring the show, sponsoring the website. They're sponsored by a 321 column I did a few weeks ago. And when we get back into the season, we'll have one of those each week. Thanks to them. Also want to point out they just bought a new giant warehouse, new offices. So they're going to be able to improve their business by bringing in more garage doors. They won't have to go through a retailer. They can go straight to the manufacturer, get garage doors like you've never seen, different styles. They have a place to put them, different sizes, different, number of panels. Some have 3, some have 4, some have 5, some have 6, however many you want. Some have glass, some don't. They'll be able to set all that stuff. They'll have it in a warehouse, get it out to you quicker. So their customer service, that's what they're built on. I mean, they're not, Ryan Lucie didn't get into the business to be a garage door guy. He started out looking for great customer service, and it just happened to be garage doors. He'd be a success in whatever he did. Another huge UGA fan, just like Drew French, graduated from UGA, and Matt Casey here at Academia, who also graduated from UGA. He's such a big fan that if you use Aaron Overhead Doors, you get 10% off of whatever services. Now the services are going to be even less expensive because they're not going to have to pay markups when they go and buy a garage door, because they're going to be able to have a giant warehouse in which to store them. So you get a lower price, then 10% off. You're an idiot if you don't do it. You probably go to tech. I'm just letting you know. So check out our friends at Aaron Overhead Doors.
Cold-blooded. Chief UGA says bigger upside out of high school, Isaac Nada or Brock Bowers. Isaac Nada, one of those rare 5-star tight ends coming out. And I'll tell you, the thing about Isaac that always set him apart for me was his hands. You just never saw Isaac miss a catch. He wasn't the biggest guy on the field. He's not one of those.
He was big, though.
No, he's a big guy. But he's not one of these 6'7".
No.
He's not Darnell Washington at tight end. But Isaac, incredible hands. Bowers, he's sitting at that, right around 100 right now. I think that he could move up in the rankings given the chance this season. But, I still got to go with Isaac. I can't.
Isaac could play defensive end, too, if need to be.
Yeah, he was a hell of a defensive end. I would have liked to have seen it, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Let's see. We've got Kay Leland wants to know, who does Georgia turn to at linebacker if they miss out on Smell Munden? Definitely you're going to want to watch the Jamon Dumas-Johnson commitment. I think that could be a key one. And then the guy that I've been telling everybody about for the longest time is Prince Coley out of Jonesboro,
now
Tennessee.
everybody's talking about him.
Yeah, Davy Crockett High School, man. Yeah. Listen, tremendous athlete, Georgia in the top 5 without even having visited here. I think that Georgia in a really good place for Prince. An exciting prospect. Not a complete project yet, but a kid with a lot of athletic upside that I think people could get excited about. Go watch the film. He does everything.
Hey, just cut the film on, and you won't need to watch but a couple plays.
That's exactly what I did. I went and watched it. He makes one where you're not even sure what you're looking at, where he is in this, and all of a sudden the guy goes to pass and somebody jumps up like it feels like 4 feet off the ground.
Little Boss Bailey action there.
Oh man, it's beautiful. Watch out for Prince. Let's see what else we've got. This is a good one for you, Coach. Pop tab 4599. He says, how do head coaches grow teamwork with the coaching staff? Everybody has 2 big jobs between their unit and recruiting. But how do you get those guys to all work together and have a common goal? Is that on the OC to make sure that all the offensive pieces are working together, or is that more of a head coach's responsibility?
Well, it starts out with the head coach because you're the boss. And I always said you got to motivate the motivators. These are the guys that deal with the players as position coaches day in and day out. As a head coach, you deal with them, but not on the one-on-one basis, just because of the time constraints of 85 players. But you got to make sure that they're in the same ballpark for your philosophy, academically and athletically, that they really care about the kids' development, that they're tough enough on them, but at the same time are positive in the way they approach the guys. And I think the cohesiveness, you've got to have a good blend between a really tough-ass program and then some guys that give them some love too. I mean, there's a fine line. Some guys are yellers and screamers. Some guys don't do a lot of talking emotionally. So you got to just balance that out. And within that, you've also got to have an outstanding strength and conditioning staff that's going to do all they can to develop those players to their max as far as their physical potential too. So, but the main thing that I always remember is you motivate the motivators. You bring them in and you talk to them about, hey, here's something I saw you do today that I thought was really good, or here's something that I think that from now on I don't want to see it again. Because this is important. You don't have to do exactly everything by the book, but you got to show some imagination. But I want you to be a 5-star coach at your position. I want you to be an all-conference coach in the SEC, that when people talk about coaches, you're the best guy that they talk about. But the gets down to this, and it's the same way with any situation with a coach or a boss. I don't have to please you. You got to please me.
Yeah.
So it's important that you understand that. So, and I've had some really good role models when I was coaching that helped me do that. And I had some really good assistant coaches. I had a few bad ones. Some of that was my fault too. But the main thing, though, is articulate the model. Tell them what you want and then let them do it. You got a playbook for how you're going to do it. You're going to have a technique book for how you're going to do it. And you're going to carry that out on your daily basis.
Don't give this tyrant any more ideas. No, I think that, no, Roddy, you do a great job. Yeah, you're a good boss.
Boy, you've been kissing ass all day. Hey, if you want to get that ass kissing taste out of your mouth, they have some good beers here in front of you.
I need to wash after that one.
No, the extra credit is their ESB. I figured you'd like that one. It's a little bitter there. And this is the Choose the Sword. It's a Berliner Weiss flavored with peaches.
As we wind down here, before you ask another question, I think it's important that all the fans know what's getting ready to transpire here, hopefully within the framework of what the rules are now. Our players came back after the weekend, and now they're transposing into maybe a little bit more conditioning phase after doing a whole lot of soft tissue work, working on their weight, trying to regain their strength. Now they're adding some conditioning. They're actually going to do some player-led 7-on-7 type stuff where they go out and compete a little bit. And then next week on the 15th, our team can't do it to the 15th because we play a game on Monday, hopefully. Then you can have coaches on the field with them doing some conditioning and some walkthroughs, but no football-related stuff as far as throwing and catching and all that. You can have a ball out there to simulate the walkthroughs, and then you can have 8 hours of conditioning and football stuff, and you can do the rest of the time on virtual meetings on Zoom. So we're going to pick it up here the next couple of weeks.
I'm sure everyone's thrilled for conditioning to be back.
Yeah. Well, we had a little insider note. This is why you need to check out UGASports.com every day. It's 27 cents a day. We had a note this past Friday talking about the players were, I don't say given the day off because it's all voluntary, but they closed the weight room on Friday saying, look, you can't come in, even if you want to do it voluntarily, go home. Go see your family because, as Coach said, it's about to kick up. It's the 4th of July weekend. The players went home. Now, they were told before they left, you kids are going to Florida. There's an outbreak there. You kids are going home to Georgia. There's a spike in cases there. Wherever you're going, be smart about it. Don't go to these pool parties. Don't do moronic things, because when you come back, if you test positive, we're sending your butt back home. Guess what? We're also going to send your suite mates back home and your roommates back home. That is a change in policy. Before, they were taking them to like a conference, like a hotel or dorm room, and anybody that tested positive and their roommates had to sit out, for like a week or so. Now they're being sent home for 2 weeks. So the rules changed. They're very serious about this, about making sure that everybody was smart while they were home, and spoke to some people inside the program. They said, look, they've been going 4 days a week here, and it's all, like Coach said, the soft tissue stuff, building up strength. A lot of them didn't have access to, and they might have a home gym. They don't have 405 pounds of plates, and some of these guys need to lift big plates. So they got back into the gym, and now we understand that I was told, hey, when they come back, instead of going 4 days, they're going to go 5, but there's going to be some of that conditioning in there. That makes sense with what Coach is saying now. 7-on-7s and stuff like that. Okay, thank you, Coach, because I wasn't quite sure what they were going to be doing in the coming weeks, but again, sometimes when you get these hints and insider information, they don't tell you the whole story. They're just like, we're going to be going at it harder next week. What do you mean? We're going to go 5 days.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah. Well, we're only going to lift 2. We're going to do conditioning. And I didn't quite understand. I mean, we gave it to our readers. We told them what we were hearing. But this
what you said was good. It's like 3 days lift, 2 days run. And last week it was more 4. First couple of weeks is 4 days lift, and then 1 day in the middle of the week they just did some real soft stuff. So, but hey, I'm just glad they're here.
I think everyone is.
Yeah, we got to have some football or we're going to lose our damn minds. Anyway, I want to give a big shout out to our friends here at Academia Brewing Company. We've been enjoying the wonderful beers here, the great food, that Kobe hot dog.
Yeah.
Once this camera's off, that thing's going to disappear in 2 seconds. Coach, we have some shrimp and grits coming your way.
It's actually at your house right now, so I know you're going to be wanting to get off here.
The tripletta
out on the carport.
The tripletta sandwich will be there. So just let you know.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
The food is there. So thank you for being on the show. And thanks to everybody who tuned in. We will see you next Tuesday, actually back here at this location. So we will see you then. We'll be drinking more beer. Everyone take care.